Hello, my wonderful people. Welcome back to another Pills chapter. Right now we are on chapter 7 out of 29. Let's get into it. A few days have passed since Zim had made his deal with Keith, and saying that Keith was annoying had to be the biggest underestimate of Zim's entire life. Not only did he follow Zim around like a lost dog, but he was also clingy to the point where Zim couldn't even sit in the bathroom to remove his contacts to refresh his eyes anymore. And if Zim didn't know any better, he'd say Keith was also overprotective. That was the weird bit. Before, he only had to deal with Keith in short spans. Now that now that was back to back, it became more apparent Keith was not only trying to keep them both safe, he was literally protecting Zim. Whenever another student attempted to say something hurtful or even touch Zim, Keith was on their ass. Today was a perfect example. At recess, the two boys were sitting on a bench because Zim didn't feel well enough to play. Though that was really a half-truth. Zim had been having massive spoot aches the, for the past 35 hours, and the more he moved, the worse it felt. Keith was in the middle of cooting him when a few of the more popular kids had decided to join them. Zim didn't know all their names, nor did he care. "Check it out, girls. Seems like we finally found out who Zim's supplier is." Zim's eyes shrunk when Keith stood up, glaring daggers at them. "Back off." "Or what?" "This." Keith then launched? Goodness. His hand forward and grabbed fistfuls of her hair, completely trashing it. She screamed bloody murder and pointed at Keith. "Madman! He's a man! He's crazy!" I would like to interrupt this really quickly and say I do not have my glasses on, so reading is quite difficult right now. That is why I am missaying words. Well, I always missay words, but like adding different words to it because I can't really see them. So I would just like to apologize for that really quickly. I will get new glasses tomorrow, and I will continue on the next part tomorrow too. Um, I will get back to the story. I would just like to say that really quickly. Before running away, her friends following suit. Why did she react like that? Zim gave him a curious look. Humans have a weird fascination with body hair. No idea, but it's a good weakness. Like to use when she picks on me. Zim looked up at Keith with wide eyes till he sat down. "You actually look for your opponent's weakness?" Zim couldn't believe it. Seemed like Keith was more observant than Zim intentionally thought. The both that both in this bo- this that both intrigued and irked him. Intrigued and irked him. Eh, you stop being scared of something after a while of fearing it. The walk home was the same as always, Keith walking with him despite it being completely opposite of his house, thus giving him another 10 minutes walk, but Keith seemed like he couldn't care less. Of course, Keith being Keith talked literally the whole time. Zim felt his antennas going numb halfway through the walk. I might have been something else. The only good to come out of this time with Keith was that he, for the most part, wasn't bothered by the other students. Even Dib seemed to avert his gaze, which made things a heck of a lot easier. When they got to Zim's door, they said their goodbyes and Zim went inside without another word. Keith was a strange human indeed, though did not know of Zim's alien origins. A part of Zim believed that had Keith found out, He probably wouldn't care, so long as he let Keith be in his general vicinity. Zim stretched and decided to relax on the couch, turning on the TV. In other news, this little dog is said to be president of the world one day. Also, elementary students are doing drugs now, but who cares? Look at the little doggy. Zim turned off the TV. The human authorities are already looking into it. He rubbed his forehead already, feeling a horrible headache coming on. Speaking of headaches, where were Gur and Minnie Moose? Zim was about to yell at his computer for the locations of the two were when he decided against it. They were probably outside at the park playing and eating kids' toys. They'll be fine. Zim just needs to relax. He went to his dresser elevator. Computer, send me to the. He paused. He never did find out what it was Dib doing down there. To the main lab. Whatever. Dib sat at his computer, writing in his news notes. It had been harder with Keith around, but Dib had been collecting notes on Zim, trying to see how his body was coping. So far, not much, with the expe- but with the exception of some vomit and drowniness. That's probably not right. He also seemed a lot less violent than usual, if he was actually thinking before he acted, not to mention the weird mood swings that just recently came into play. The worst part, though, was Zim's patience intolerance. Zim hated Keith, probably more than he hated Dib, and yet why was he allowing him to be so close?